Well, I'm back again. I'm hoping this video is a better one, quality-wise, because the last one wasn't that good. Where was I? Yeah, I'd just been given 2 life sentences. As I was being given these life sentences, Igor Laptev, the chap that I'd seen in the Russian embassy, was kicked out of the country for spying. And because he was a KGB colonel. But not only that, also there was over 100 other embassy staff kicked out of the country as well, for the same reason, because they were spies. So all this happened at the time when I was sent to prison. It was a big Cold War thing. Cold War was a terrible time, and there was plenty of injustices done, and I was one of them. Now, I was given 2 life sentences, as I've said in my last video, for 2 crimes, GBH and aggravated burglary, which I have never ever admitted to because I didn't do them. So whoever did them is still out there. I'm not sure, at that time I was being followed around. I know that the special branch were concentrating on people in this country who may be affiliated with Russian secret services, with the KGB. Everybody was paranoid, Russia was going to invade, nuke, take over the world and everything else, and anything went, anything goes. James Bond, 007, licensed to kill. If you're licensed, you can do anything. Now, the justice system played silly buggers with me. They, everything they did was underhand, wrong. I was just 18 years old, and I'd been given these 2 life sentences. These lasted for life. I couldn't understand this. And so I was sent to Liverpool prison, Walton, and I had to stay there for a while. I got moved out when I was 20. I was still a young prisoner at the age of 20, and I should have been sent to a young prisoners, a YP, young prisoners establishment prison. But instead I was sent to Wakefield, which was an adult jail. And I was the youngest prisoner there. And of course, the first thing that happened really, on the second day that I was there, I got raped, and I was raped by 4 lifers with a knife to my throat. And I'm only going to say this once because I don't normally talk about it. People do know about it, but I don't normally talk about it. But that experience had very, very far-reaching consequences, and even now, I am completely. I can't find words to describe it. You'll have to bear with me and understand what I'm saying. But I was told that if I let that go and didn't do anything about it, then it would happen again. And so the next day I found out where one of the prisoners lived, which cell he was in, and I picked up an iron bar and I went to his cell to pay him a visit, and I gave him a very damn good thrashing. I could have killed him. I felt like I wanted to kill him. In my head I was saying, kill this bastard. What he'd done to me was so savage and so disgusting. And yet there was something in me that said, no, don't do that, leave him. So I left the cell and put the iron bar down outside the cell door. He had been screaming, so loads of screws came running up onto the landing, which was the top landing, and I was taken down into the block, or the chokey, or the punishment cells. And in there was just a tree trunk to sit on, nothing else. And at night time, at 7:30, you could bring a bed in. It was like a camp bed. And then in the morning at 7:30, you had to move that bed back outside again. Well, as the days went by, the governor got to hear about the truth of the matter, that I'd been attacked by these lifers, and I'd gone to one of their cells and given them a good whacking. And so he understood what had happened, and he was fairly lenient. He was a decent guy. He got me a table and a chair, writing paper, a pen, so I could write letters, and I could do a bit of drawing and stuff like that. So it wasn't that bad. And the night watchman, he was a good guy too, and he used to give me dog ends. You know, the screws. Everybody smoked in those days, and the screws would leave dog ends lying in the ashtrays, and then he'd come on duty for the night, and he'd gather them all up and pass them through the door with some cigarette papers and matches. And he'd do that every night, and I was grateful for that because I was a smoker. And so that's where I was, and I got put on Category A. Category A at that time was reserved for the most dangerous prisoners. There was only another 8 in the whole country. The Cray twins, Myra Hindley, Brady, Harry Roberts, a couple of others, and me. And so I found myself not just a lifer, but a Cat A lifer. My God, you know, I got moved from Wakefield after about a year, and as a Cat A man, and I was in a van with police cars in front and police cars behind, and I was moved a long, long way away to another prison down south. And on the motorway there was a helicopter that was overhead, and I'm sat in there thinking, well, I've not done anything, you know. The only thing that I've done was break into an office block that was empty for somewhere to sleep for the night. It was wrong, shouldn't have done it. It wasn't my office block. But I didn't cause much damage. I just forced my way in and slept on the floor. Well, my intention was just sleep on the floor and leave next morning by the same way, you know. So somebody would arrive and see that the lock had been prized open, but not damaged. It could be locked again. That's all I'd done. That's what my crime was. That is what my crime was. And here I was. I wasn't going to get any justice. I felt as though I'd been kidnapped by the system. And, you know, in effect, that's what had happened. I'd been kidnapped by the system. I had so many restrictions put onto me to stop me from contacting people outside of the prison. As a Cat A prisoner, there were so many restrictions that were put on us. And eventually I ended up on the Isle of Wight in a prison called Albany. Albany was a high security prison. I didn't like it. Didn't like Albany. It was a pretty bad prison. Uh, and so I was moved again, and this time across the road to another prison called Parkhurst, which was to remain my home for the next 8 years. The Justice Department, the Home Office, decided to give me people to associate with. These people were other Cat A prisoners. And so next door to me, Reggie Cray, in the next cell to me. Across the landing, Ronnie Cray. And they treated me very, very well and trusted me. I never gave them any reason not to. A strange thing, they ran a check on me, a background check, because nobody believed that I was serving 2 life sentences for GBH and aggravated burglary. Nobody believed that. They thought I was some sort of mass killer, some sort of murderer that had got something very terrible to hide, that I was inside for something really, really bad. And I wasn't telling the truth. And they did a background check on me, the twins. And they found out that I was telling the truth. And also that the IRA were there at the time too. And they ran a check on me. I must say at this time that I'd become very, very radicalised. The system had me down as a communist. The Soviet Union played a big part in this. And that's how they treated me, as a communist sympathiser with the Soviet Union. And me being me, I sort of played up to this, and I started to write letters to Brezhnev. I worked for Radio Moscow. And I became a revolutionist. In prison, my job was to smuggle out information about what was happening inside the prison, so that people on the outside would know. And the Home Office always made a big, big play about denying what had happened in a prison. If there was a riot, then the riot was started by the prisoners. Yeah, very rarely this happened. It was normally started by the screws themselves, for instance. And sometimes a prisoner would get a beating by the screws, really, really hurt bad, and they'd just be put in the prison hospital. Nobody would be informed about it on the outside. So again, I'd make a report, and I'd send it out and to various news agencies and various prisoners groups, so that they were aware of what was going on. So that's what I was doing mainly in Parkhurst. There were a few things. I went up on the roof a couple of times just to get some fresh air. And I did everything I could to undermine the prison executive, the running of the prison by the screws. I became known as someone who could be trusted, someone who was honest, somebody who could keep their mouth shut, and who could provide certain services. I could write a whole letter on the back of a postage stamp. Yeah, and I used to do that, and that's how I used to get letters out, writing them on the back of a postage stamp. Yeah, with a pencil, sharpened to such an extent I could write tiny, tiny letters. Anyway, and I was forgotten about. every time I tried to get something done about my case, it would be stonewalled. And all of the time, the Home Office were writing reports saying that I was doing things that I wasn't doing, assaulting prison staff, attempting to escape, things that when the parole board read the reports would have made them think, no, we can't let this man out. It was all designed to keep me in prison. It was never intended that I should be ever released. I was 18-year-old when I went in, and I was 40 when I got out. And the only reason I got out is because of the public. There was a big public outcry about my case, and suddenly there was interest. And in the end, the Home Office had to admit that they'd lied. I got an apology from a judge sitting on the tribunal that got me released. He apologised to me and said I should never have been in prison in the first place. Yeah, this is what the people don't think of England as a place where this can happen. They think of Russia as a place where this could happen. Other countries, you know, we don't need to go into all that. But not England. England has always been a place where the rule of law applies, everybody gets treated the same. And everything is done fairly. It's not the case. There's other people in prison that I left behind that I know are innocent. There were people in there that were innocent that I knew. You know, Stephen Kisco was a friend of mine, and he hadn't done anything. And most of the people that I met in there as well were not very literate. You know, the police could just manipulate whoever they wanted and fit them up. They did it. It was the 1970s. People were being fitted up left, right and centre. False confessions, you know. And then you can't get out of it because then they say later on, oh, well, you confessed, therefore, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. But they don't look at the way that you confessed and the situation, the circumstances that you were in as the confession was being made or whatever. None of that's ever looked into. In my case, the fact that there was nobody there when this confession was being written, in itself, should have launched an inquiry. You can't just, if I was a copper, I couldn't just get a guy, put him in front of me, type out whatever I wanted, get him to sign it, and then say afterwards, well, look, he signed his confession. It's a confession, you know. But the way they played it with me was, you know, you'll go to prison for 2 years, and they'd threatened to deport my father. And I thought, well, if 2 years is what I've got to do, I'll do it, you know. I've been in kids' homes. I've been in approved schools. I used to run away from the kids' homes. I did. You know. And when I got out of prison, nobody apologised to me. There was a lot in the press about it. At the time, it was a big case. Because there was nobody else that had served that long. Nearly a quarter of a century. And still nobody in the Justice Department has apologised to me. I've had no apology at all. You know? And I've been out of prison now since 1993. 23 years. 25 years. And I'm still looking for justice. I can't get it. The Home Office just won't play ball. The Justice Department don't want to know. Oh, it all happened so long ago. We haven't got those reports anymore. They've all been lost during the course of time. It's too long ago, we can't go back that far. And I'm sat here like a plum. So I don't know what. The people they made me associate with in prison, man, they make your hair curl. You know, I'd be walking around the exercise yard, some guy would come up to me and say, have you got a fag on you, mate? I'd say, yeah, sure. And he'd start talking to me, and he'd say, well, yeah. He said, I cut this bloke's head off, and I put it in a carrier bag. Yeah, and I took it onto a big wheel at the fair. And when we got to the top, I tipped the head out of the bag, and it bounced into the little, what did he call them? Those little those little. And I'm stood there thinking, what the hell who am I talking to here? And he was just telling me matter of factly, and this was just one. There was loads and loads of people like that. I was walking around with Reggie Cray, and I was talking to Reggie perfectly normally, you know, and we had a normal good conversation. Reggie saved my life once. And the IRA, they saved my life once. I got involved in the IRA with the political IRA, Sinn Féin, but I was asked to join them, but I didn't go that far. At that time I was a communist. I'd joined the Communist Party, and I'd become, well, I don't want to go into that because that's still part of things I want to keep quiet. But I was a communist. I'd been made one. I'd been classified as one. I'd been looked on as one. And I became one. Well, sod it. If that's what you're telling me I am, and you're going to keep me in prison forever, then I'm going to be one, and I'll show you what a communist can do. So, you know, some of the things that I did, I'm not ashamed of. There's a lot of people in there that I helped. I'm not ashamed of that. You know, I do remember, you know, normally a lifer gets his own cell. He doesn't have to share a cell with anyone. This is mostly because if a lifer comes into your cell, you get a bit jittery, you know. Because in the 70s, lifers were still murderers. You know, these days you get life for all sorts of things, but not in those days. So we all had our own cell. But once I went into a prison, I think it was Horfield, yeah, Bristol, and it was a time when all of the cells were full, and there was no room. There was no single cell available, so I had to go into a cell with another con. And he was around the age I am now, so he was an old geezer, and he'd stolen a bottle of milk off a doorstep. I think he was serving for like a year, and he found himself banged up with a bloody lifer, me. I mean, I did manage to allay his fears a bit. And he came to see me afterwards, actually, with his wife and his daughter. They came to see me for a while. I'd come off Cat A by then, and I think I'd served about 15 years at that stage. But stealing a bottle of milk off a doorstep. Of course, the reason was he'd done it before. And the magistrates had said to him, if you do it again, we're going to take it much more severe. Yeah, and they ended up getting a year or two, I don't know, something like that. Prison time though. And that's all they'd done. And I'm reading the Sun newspaper. Thugs. Prisoners are thugs. All prisoners are this and that and that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they've got it wrong somewhere. You know. I can tell you stories about the craze, yeah, that nobody's ever heard of. Other people, Charlie Richardson, Harry Roberts. I could tell you about most of the faces, the people in prison that were in there for very serious things. And I can tell you things about them that would surprise you. And these are things that aren't, that the newspapers wouldn't tell you. They'd give you their version, which is always the government version, who want to make these people look as bad as possible to justify what they're doing to them. But I can tell you things about those guys. And I don't know whether I should right now, because this video is going on a bit. But I got to a stage where I thought I'm never going to get out. I did try to kill myself twice. The last time I was going to drink drain cleaner, by shite, if I'd have taken that, that wouldn't have been a happy death. But that's how low I got. And you know, I'm just looking at, I'm here to tell the tale. I mean, I'm an old geezer now, but I've got a beard. That's a good thing. You can trust guys with beards. And I've got a couple of good friends. And I'm on Facebook as well. And I meet loads and loads of people, you know, just through comments, learning about people all the time. But I'm left with a disability because I've got severe post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, you know, prison was a trauma a day. Unauthorized medicine as a consequence. I'm not all that happy about it because the side effects. But here I am. It's going to be my birthday next week. So I'm going to be 60 again. Quoting my lawyer. He always has a 60th birthday. Well, I'm going to come away now. If anybody's got any questions for me, please put them underneath the video. And then I can do a video answering those questions specifically. That could be a good way of doing it. We can try it that way, if you have enough interest in this. I want to dedicate this really to all the people that are innocent in prison, locked away like animals, classified as thugs, kept away from their families and just living in boxes. I'm hoping for a true judicial system where there is justice. This is what I believe in more than anything else. Justice. Let there be justice. Okay, well, I'm going to get off now. I will come back. Do let me know, please, because I will make a video answering the questions that you've asked. Okay, so don't be shy. You can put those questions underneath this. It should go onto YouTube. And I'll engage with you. But for now, take care of yourself, guys. Don't let the bastards grind you down. Just one tip. If you're ever accused of something that you've not done, if you're ever pulled in by the police for something that you haven't done, not done, before anything else, tell them that you refuse to make a statement unless you're connected up to a polygraph. Make your statement connected to a lie detector. Okay? Do that, please. Because that way they'll know if you're telling the truth or not. Yeah? And lie detectors do work. Don't believe that they don't. Okay? Alright, well, I'll just sign out now. My name's Alex, as you know, and I'll be here again if you want me here again. Okay, so long for now, and keep the flag flying, and be happy. Alright, I'm going to sign out. Take care, guys.